Hello everyone. Today I'd like to tell you about a very special Jew named Gershom. Gershom was born in the US. At age 5, after losing both of his parents, was adopted by a couple of missionaries who brought him over to Kenya. A few years later moved to Tanzania. At age 17, asked him to be baptized, as Christianity did not sit well with him. He refused. They had a falling out and didn't speak for a few years. A few years later, when he tried to reach out, heard that his stepfather had a heart attack and died. His stepmom did not actually have enough information about who he was and where he originally came from, and they stayed in touch until the day she died. Gershom lived his entire life here in East Africa. As an East African, he lives with Christianity as being the religion that he knew, even though most of Tanzania is actually Muslim. But he lived this way his entire life, worked here in various interesting jobs, led a very interesting life. A few years back, manages to get a hold of his adoption folder and realizes he has a sister, an older sister. Reaches out to her. Turns out she is a religious woman living in the US, tells him, "We're Jews, we've always been Jews. Here, this is your identity." 2015, he has this information, immediately switches everything about himself to find out what this means to be a Jew. Reaches out to the only other Jew that he knew in the area, named Yehuda Kahalani from Arusha, Tanzania. Comes and asks him, what does it mean to be a Jew, and starts learning with him. He learns whatever he's able to get his hands on. So he gets some books, he has a computer, he's learning online, whatever he possibly could. While he's learning all of these things, he finds a way to get tefillin, talit, anything that he needs to lead a Jewish life. And him and his wife, Netanya, go and they learn whatever they can possibly get their hands on. He learned how to put on tefillin. He wore them every single day. He spent hours upon hours every day listening to classes. Often we would learn together online. We would sit. He would send me questions. Every once in a while we managed to also do like Zoom classes together. I managed to get to Dar es Salaam where he lived. And when I got there, I get off the plane and I see everyone is Muslim. Everyone is dressed in their burqas, and the men are wearing their whole getup. And then I see this one Jew with payas, a kippah, tzitzis, comes over, gives me a big hug, says, "Welcome, Rabbi. It's so wonderful to finally meet you." Gives me a big hug. And you saw that this is a person who is proud of his Judaism, a person who stood up and always paraded his Judaism around, even though that was not the popular religion in the area and not something that you would often see in Tanzania. Gershom had diabetes and his situation deteriorated the past few years. He had to go through dialysis several times a week. He was exhausted, was not feeling well often. That never stopped him, not from learning, not from putting on tefillin, not from sitting in the sukkah on Sukkot, not from doing anything that he possibly could. About a few weeks ago, he went to India to get a treatment that may be able to save his life, and the past Sunday he passed away. Gershom was very, very special and managed to stand up against the world. And this very much reminds us of another character in this week's Parsha, in Parashat Lecha, Avraham Avienu. Avraham Avienu leaves the house of idol worshipping and says, "I am going to follow the one true God." And he gets up and goes against the stream. Not because it was easy, but because it was the right thing to do. And we all have the strength to stand up and do what's right whenever we are called upon. Shabbat Shalom, and may he have an aliyah for his neshama.